Oh, hey, party people. It's your favorite New York City tour guide back again to give you the insider scoop on the Big Apple's most horrendous hoods. That's right. Grab your pepper spray and steel-toed boots, because we're headed into the belly of the beast. The 5 worst neighborhoods in New York that will have you begging for the sweet release of the subway back to hipster haven Brooklyn. I'm talking real urban jungle here, folks. We've analyzed the data on violent crime, property crime, schools, home prices, vibes, you name it, to identify the spots you should avoid at all costs, unless you want to star in the next Law & Order SVU episode. So join me on this thrill ride into the dark side of the city that never sleeps. Just don't say I didn't warn you. So let's get started on New York City's top 5 worst neighborhoods, and we'll start with Vinegar Hill. Welcome to Vinegar Hill, where the Irish once roamed and now the hipsters and criminals dwell. This tiny hood sandwiched between the Brooklyn Navy Yard and Dumbo is an odd mix of old warehouses, housing projects, and million-dollar lofts. Talk about gentrification gone awry. Housing costs are through the roof, even though you've got a decent shot of getting capped just walking to the corner bodega. 8 times more murders happen here than the national average, yet the median home value is pushing $1 million. Who wants to drop that kind of cash to live in a place called Vinegar Hill anyway? The weird combo of projects, warehouses, and overpriced lofts earns this hood the top spot on our list. If the absurd housing costs or threat of violence don't scare you off, the stupid name alone should do the trick. Do yourself a favor and steer clear of this disaster of urban planning. Brooklyn has way better to offer, trust me. Vinegar Hill's an odd mix of housing projects, hipsters, and high prices. Sure, the cobblestone streets and waterfront views are charming, but good luck affording a place. And watch your back. Crime here's sky high. I'll pass. Next on my list is the Meatpacking District. Gentrified, but still dangerous. Look, I get it. The Meatpacking District is cool now, with its cobblestone streets, trendy restaurants, and nightclubs frequented by the young, hip, and obscenely wealthy. But underneath the artisanal olive oil stores and $20 craft cocktails, danger still lurks. Once home to slaughterhouses and meat packers, hence the oh-so-creative name. Now it's full of scenester clubs and overpriced bistros. By day, wannabe fashionistas strut the cobblestone streets. By night, bridge and tunnel crowds descend, an epicenter of pretension and posers. Hard pass. Back in the day, the Meatpacking District was a gritty industrial area where butchers and meat packers plied their gruesome trade. Now all that's left of that era are the cobblestones, but the ghosts of meat packers past still haunt the streets. Don't be lulled into a false sense of security by the boutiques and bistros. This neighborhood's violent history is always just below the surface. By day, the Meatpacking District is bougie paradise. But by night, the empty cobblestone streets are a pickpocket's delight. And in the shadows of trendy clubs, shady dealings go down. There are whispers of a black market for exotic meats operating right under the noses of clubgoers stumbling home at dawn. Look, I'm just saying, be careful. Don't be blinded by the glitz. The Meatpacking District didn't get its name because people were packing meat into picnic baskets. Stay alert, watch your wallet, and for God's sake, avoid the exotic sliders. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. The next hood to steer clear of is Chelsea. Chelsea used to be a rough neighborhood, filled with warehouses and factories. Now it's home to art galleries, hip restaurants, and high-rise condos that are absurdly overpriced. Talk about gentrification gone wild. Despite the facelift, Chelsea's seedy underbelly still shows through. Homeless population. Chelsea has one of the largest concentrations of homeless shelters in the city. Walk down any street and you'll see people pushing shopping carts filled with their belongings or passed out on the sidewalk. The city keeps opening more shelters to deal with the crisis, but hasn't actually solved the root problems that lead to homelessness. Way to go, New York City. Although it's not quite as bad now, there's still rampant drug use and dealing. I've seen people shooting up in broad daylight and shady characters making hand-to-hand transactions on street corners. I'm no narc, but this is a bit much even for New York. Parts of Chelsea were basically open-air drug markets in the 80s and 90s. Chelsea may have gotten a fancy makeover, but it's still gritty at its core. I guess you can't put lipstick on a pig, or in this case, cover up a neighborhood's seedy past with modern condos and overpriced cold-pressed juice bars. The juxtaposition of its posh and impoverished elements makes Chelsea a truly bizarre New York anomaly. Next up is Harlem, baby. What can I say? This New York hood has more drama than a Real Housewives reunion special. Look, I get the appeal. The history, the culture, the brownstones. It's all very charming in theory. But between the poverty, crime, and decaying infrastructure, the reality is Harlem continues to struggle. Nearly 30% of Harlem residents live below the poverty line. Folks can barely afford rent, let alone the organic cold-pressed juice bars and artisanal coffee shops that have popped up. There's a reason 125th Street is lined with discount shops and fast food joints. If you're looking for Whole Foods or Starbucks, head downtown. Don't be fooled by Harlem's cool factor. This area still ranks high for violent crime. In 2019, Harlem saw nearly 700 felony assaults and over 20 murders. Muggings and shootings are common. The tension between the projects and gentrified areas only exacerbates the situation. As a resident, you constantly feel caught between two worlds. Do you want a bulletproof vest or a locally sourced kale salad? In Harlem, it's a tough call. While Harlem will always have a place in history, its present state leaves much to be desired. If you're dead set on that uptown swag, you'd be safer and saner, choosing areas like Morningside Heights or Washington Heights instead. Harlem may be hot, but not in the way the travel blogs would have you believe. Consider yourself warned. And here we are at number 5, Hunts Point. Hunts Point in the Bronx is the armpit of New York City. I wouldn't send my worst enemy there, not even on a dare. Between the stench of rotting trash from the garbage yards and the blaring hip-hop at all hours, this hood deserves a one-way ticket to oblivion. The only thing Hunts Point is known for is prostitution and drugs. The streets are filled with junkies looking to score their next fix, and ladies of the night, plying their trade. Don't make eye contact, just keep walking. The homicide rate here is off the charts. I'd put on a bulletproof vest to take out the trash. Property values? What property values? The crumbling tenements look like they should be condemned. No amount of HGTV renovation could save them. The schools are dropout factories with metal detectors at the entrances. I wouldn't send a pet cockroach to be educated there, let alone a child. The only businesses that survive are bodegas, check-cashing joints, and chop shops. Culture? They wouldn't know culture if it mugged them in broad daylight, unless hip-hop music videos count. Hunts Point makes the rest of the city look like Beverly Hills. Do yourself a favor, stay out of this hellhole. Your life may depend on it. And there you have it, folks. The definitive list of New York City's top 5 worst neighborhoods you should avoid like the plague, or at least heavily armed gang members. Now, I don't know about you, but after reviewing the rampant violence, outrageous housing costs, crumbling infrastructure, and all-around sketchiness plaguing these areas, I'm ready to stick to my quaint little suburb, where the most dangerous thing roaming the streets is an angry soccer mom in an oversized SUV. Sure, the Big Apple may boast world-class culture and cuisine, but clearly, you need your wits about you, lest you end up in one of these crime-infested hellholes. So do yourself a favor and stay far away, or at the very least only visit under the protective watch of heavily armed guards. And if you happen to currently live in one of these neighborhoods, may God have mercy on your soul. Well, that's our show for today, folks. Tune in next time when we reveal the top best spots to grab a slice in New York City. Because, yeah, this city still has some redeeming qualities. Toodles.